Hi, I'm Suzanne of Suzanne Schwartz Jewelry. Welcome to my studio. Today I'd like to take you through the process of making an earring similar to the ones that I'm wearing. So most of my jewelry is stitched, and what I mean by that is I will drill little holes and I will sew through with either fine silver or 22 karat gold. The stitching is part of my work. It's really part of my heritage. My grandmother used to come over every weekend, and from a young age she taught me how to knit and sew, and we would do it together every weekend. And this is something that always found its way into all of my artwork. For some reason I love the look of the broken stitch. So it has always found its way into my artwork, and then when I started working with metal and making jewelry, it still was there and followed me. The other work that I do is pearls. I have a fascination with pearls and just find them really beautiful. So that's the other part of my work. So let's get back to the earring. Most of my work is done in argentium silver, which is a highly tarnish resistant silver, and then I'll accent it with 22 karat gold bimetal, which is a sheet of gold bonded to a sheet of sterling silver, so you can see the back is silver. It's a thick piece of gold that won't chip off or wear off like a plating or a vermeil will. So with this earring that I'm going to show you, I have some different pieces that that make up this earring. There is the back, the base, and then the little squares that I then attach into the base. For all of my pieces, I make a template once I have the shape that I'm happy with, and I use this over and over again, as you'll see in this process. So I'm gonna start out by taking my metal, and this is something that the first few pieces, versions of this earring, I of course sawed the base out. But then when I get the piece that I like, what I'll do is I'll make this template, I'll saw this out, and this will enable me to make the piece that I want, and I'll be able to repeat it a little faster. So now I'm going to take this, I put the metal in here, I'm going to put it in the hydraulic press, and this is going to cut out my base. And we're about to hear a nice crack, which is the cutting. Such a beautiful sound. So now it comes out, and you can see this has separated, and that's the piece that cut out. And then there is the piece. So from there, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some glasses on. I'm going to take my template, and I'm going to trace the bottom part this little tab, and then I'm going to sand it. Now to get started a little bit, I'm going to take my scissors and cut that metal. So now we're going to go over to my sander, and I'm going to even get a closer look, and I'm going to sand this piece so that I have nice smooth lines. So I'm gonna dip it in a little water. And I'm sanding out my curve and just making a nice smooth curve. Here too. And now I'm going to take that bottom and I'm going to sand where the blue is. Now I'm going to make these curves a little better. And that's pretty good. I'm just going to take my files. I'm going to dry this off. I'm going to take my files and just refine that curve a little bit. I like that. So now I'm going to go back to my drill. And what I'm going to do here is take my template, and you can see that's a really nice fit. And I'm going to mark these holes. And now I'm going to drill them. So here's my drill. I'm going to just lubricate the drill bit, and that's 0.9 millimeters. And now I am going to drill these holes. This drill is my favorite tool. And then you can see I have the holes in there. While I'm here, I'm going to take a square, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill my holes. I'll cut out a square. I'm going to take my template, mark my holes, and then drill these as well. And these holes are going to be where the stitch goes through. So now we're going to take this piece, these pieces over to the hammering station. And what I'm going to do first here is put my stamp, my initials, in this piece. There we go. And that's a little SAS. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to shape it. I have a template that also shows the shape. You can see this one's broken, but I made use of it by saving it. So I have a template that shows me the curves that I want in this. So I'm going to take it and hammer it. Hammer it on this side a little so you can see what I'm doing. And by hammering it, what I'm also doing is I'm hardening the metal so that when it becomes an earring, it really has strength to it and it's not going to move. That's from condensing the molecules. So here I have my piece that you can see. The curves are very similar and I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to go back to my square. And so these squares, they have a little bit of, this is flat, and I want to give it a little shape to it. So what I'm going to do is make it concave. So I'm going to find the match here. So I'm going to put this right in the hole. Hammer. And you can see it's concave. Now I'm going to want a little bit more than that with it. So I'm going to go to here, put it in a smaller hole, which will make it even more concave. Lightly hammer. And then you can see the curve is more pronounced. So I'm going to take my pieces back over to station over here. So on this, I would now, my torch is not here in my studio, it's in another part. But I would then take this and I would solder a post so it can become an earring onto the back of it, and then I would finish it even more before the next step. And then with these little squares, what I would do is take some wire, cut off a little piece, and then at my torch, I would solder, let me just show you a little closer, I would solder this on to here, which would then, oops, to there, which would then become, just gonna do something here. Which would then, so now this is the base. So then from here, before I continue, what I'm gonna do is stitch it. So I have all these little pieces of wire that are different sizes and different widths depending on what I'm stitching. I ball it up a little bit. I oxidize, meaning I take it and blacken it. And then I'm going to stitch this little square. So I'm going to put it in the hole. And then when I'm stitching this, and now I'm going to put this is just one stitch. I mean, this is a simple stitch. But there's a fine line between making it too loose, because I don't want it to be loose so that you can press it down. The wearer is not going to have that, you know, it's going to bend. And I won't. And then a fine line between too loose and too tight, where I'm going to break it. And then I'm going to pull it and cut this. Finish my end so that this won't pop into the wearer's body, pull a sweater or anything, so that it's nice and smooth. And then you have the stitched piece. And you can see I have these stitched. Here's a pile of oxidized ones I've stitched, some gold. This earring that we just did, this is going to take 7 pieces, so the whole earring takes 8. And I'm going to take 3 whites. Black. White. Black. Whoops. And I would make sure I put these in for the earrings so that they lay flat. And then I'm going to finish it off with a gold on the bottom. And there you have, I'm looking for the finished one. And there you have the earring. Just going to put it on my ear because I have a bigger version on. And I've done, so this is the small cluster earring with the mixed colors. And you can see the shape just hugs the ear more. So it goes against the curve of the ear here, and then it adds little body by coming out, and it's not hidden. So these squares I've used in a lot of other pieces as well. I have, this has, 7 in each earring. I've done this necklace, which had 198 pieces to be exact. I actually counted, my hand started cramping. I had to bring my daughter in to help me load the little wires into tweezers as I was soldering them all down. So thank you today for joining me in my studio. I hope you enjoyed watching a little bit of the process.